Cars USA, yeah!
Okay, this is Car Bros Podcast 7.
Is that where we are?
Is it?
Maybe.
6. Yeah.
Welcome to...
Yeah. If it wasn't 7,
As you can tell, we are keeping
then whatever it was.
track.
We are still in Monterey.
Yes, it's what?
It's Sunday
7:30
now.
in the morning.
7:30 in the morning. It's crisp at our villa.
Day of rest.
John is still in Disneyland.
We hope he's really enjoying.
We hope he's having fun. So that was the last day of the car week.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna go to the track and finish our video.
Yeah, we
the
spent
Car Bros video.
We spent most of the day there.
Spent most of the day there. A little bit more sunburn. Just gonna be roasted by the end of this weekend.
Because why?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, video seems pretty good. Got a couple more things to make.
Yeah, we going it like halfway through it, we were kind of wondering where it's going to go, but we kind of looked at everything. And
anytime you make a video that is not written and is probably going to take multiple days to shoot, there's going to be a midpoint that
you're just like, wow, we should have been.
Yeah, that is like pretty depressing. Yeah. And so usually like we'll cut it together really roughly, and then make up the rest of the story. And then like day 2 is kind of playing off day 1. But it's turned out okay. I mean, at this point, if we launched it, you will have seen it 2 weeks ago.
They'll have seen all.
Yeah.
How great it is.
But we don't know what it's gonna look like or how it's gonna do. But we do know it's pretty stupid.
That will come as a shock.
Yeah, shock to no one.
So yesterday, we spent most of the day at the Rolex Monterey Motorsport reunion at Laguna Seca, which
the historic
to me is like easily the coolest part of our week.
It's pretty awesome seeing people just get after it.
Yes. In very cool and very expensive cars.
So there was like late 60s or late 70s F1 cars going.
Yeah. We saw the Trans Am group.
I don't know, super cool. At the same time, that event doesn't seem as populated as you would expect.
Yeah, I mean, there's people there, but it's hard. You can't say it's underrated, but it's just... For as cool as it is, you'd think people would be like...
You'd think so.
Hacking into that place.
Unless it's just the track is so big that...
that it just easily handles the crowds.
Yeah. But you don't really see... Like, we were noticing driving around, there's a lot of, like, kids with phones. Like, at corners, like, yelling at cars.
Yeah.
And stuff. Like, it feels like there's a lot of people here.
Yeah.
But then not those kinds of people at the track, maybe.
Yeah, I think there's like a bunch of different kinds of people that come to this.
This event really caters to all.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like if you're just into like supercar spotting.
Yeah, there's that whole like exotics on Cannery Row, which in all the years I've come here, I've never been there once.
Yeah.
Just because, I don't know, I feel like you see exotics wherever you go here.
Yeah. Exotics don't do a ton for me.
Right.
Driving them is one thing, but like just seeing them.
Yeah, it's kind of a
park. They're neat.
It's kind of an empty.
Or maybe it's because like once you see it once,
they're all kind
of like there's an F40 there. You got to see it again. It's like I've checked one out.
Yeah.
You know, 10 years ago or whatever.
True. Yeah.
I would never pass up the opportunity to drive anything.
Right.
But to see them.
Yeah, especially like crowding with a bunch of people to see other people like show them off.
Yeah. One weird thing about
our next video.
Journalists hate this. One weird trick to Laguna Seca. I find it interesting when you have a bunch of different cars parked together. It does something to you about your perception of those cars. Like if you see a McLaren in everyday life, you'd probably stop and check it out.
Right.
You know, but at this kind of thing, you get so saturated.
We've seen like how many of them pass.
We didn't even look. We walk. I mean,
Yeah.
there are 5 720Ss from the walk from your car to where you're trying to go.
Right.
You know, like parked wherever.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not an awesome car, but it's just like being here and being so saturated.
Yeah. Overwhelmed.
Excuse me. Yeah, there's something weird about it. And when I noticed this, there was a Z8 parked next to
Focus RS.
a Focus RX, RS, and then like, you know, some GTRs or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what it does is it just presents the car as is. And a car as is like some sheet metal,
Right.
you know,
Tires.
windshield, rims,
Yeah.
whatever. It's just like, here's the car.
Yeah.
And it strips away any of the like story
Praise.
of the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, any of the surrounding kind of made up, all the parts that people make up,
Yeah.
basically.
Right.
This car
The
represents
narrative.
blank. Like when you see an E30 M3 parked at Laguna Seca in the dirt,
Yeah.
you know, in just like lot 6, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, E30 M3. It's just a 3 Series. When you're walking past, it doesn't have any of the, like, this is the best handling chassis of, you know, all of the hype that drove those cars from $10,000 up to 50 or 100 is gone in that moment. And so it's an interesting feeling to walk past a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, because if you were just like from somewhere else, you would have no idea which one is really expensive and which one.
Yeah, it reminds you of like when you're with someone who doesn't know anything about cars. You're like, oh, dude, this is really rare. And you're trying to tell them.
Yeah.
And it's like, you are excited about it. But to them, it's like, oh, that's cool. Their thought is probably like, that's so cool that you're into this, you know?
I feel good for you.
They're not going to end up liking the car anymore because after you told like, wow, okay, I'm on board. And like, I love this thing.
And that kind of got us into the whole thing about how, I mean, most of car, like collector car, enthusiast cars, all based on how much they've been kind of topped up.
It's the story of the car.
Right.
Like, it's initially released and it's whatever.
Right.
And then there's, and people kind of talk about like the stages of depreciation and appreciation.
Yeah.
Like it follows this, they kind of do follow this trend, most of them, where it's like they dip and then they start to come back up at like 10, 15, 20 years. And the thing that makes them start to come up is the story. It's almost like man, back in high school I was so strong. You know, it's like there's something about, and I think the timing has to do. Yeah, I think the timing has to do with human memory.
Yeah.
At like 15 to 20 years is when like memory starts getting fuzzy and you can rewrite it. And like the group rewrites the story of the car.
Right.
Because like E30 M3 was always neat.
Yeah.
But in the last 10 years, it's become like this icon.
Yeah, I remember like 2005-ish. I knew a couple guys that had them that just like, yeah, this is what I'd take to autocross and like beat on. It was like, I paid $12,000 for it. It was a lot of money, but I paid $12,000.
At 15 years old, the car is worth its function.
Yeah.
How competitive is this thing at autocross?
Yeah.
Like how fast is it? That kind of stuff. And it's at max depreciation around then because it's lame compared to new stuff generally. New stuff has gotten so much better. And so it's like you're going 15 years old because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Or like whatever, it's a platform
Right.
or whatever. And then the stories start.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, those were...
The romance.
Oh, those were all these things. Yeah, and it starts to take on a new life.
Yeah.
And by owning it, you get to claim that identity. You get to claim all that stuff. Because last night, I guess, or this morning, that Ferrari 250 GTO sold for $48 million bucks, which was some record.
Right.
And it's like that's that taken to
well, the thing is,
an extreme.
Even with those cars, I mean, like at the auctions, you can have two identical cars, but one is like has all this history behind it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, doesn't obviously add anything physically to the car, but in a way, those are almost like a whole nother level of.
It's very extreme, and maybe it's a little different, but I think not. It's like, still.
It's like if this car like ran at Le Mans or, ran at Sebring or whatever, that will make it worth that much more than one that hadn't.
Yeah.
Even if the two cars were built in the same place.
It's fascinating to me though. They're like, this is expected to sell for 50 million, and it does. Yeah. It's like, how can you predict the value that accurately? Like, if you want it, why wouldn't you pay 100 million?
Yeah.
Or why would you pay? You know, where it's like people are like, oh, I was told this one thing is worth this much.
That's
like,
why.
I'll bid to exactly that much within like 5%.
That's true.
Of what people say. So it's, I don't know, the whole value of cars thing, like the spotlight is really on it here.
Yeah.
I feel, I don't know why, but it does something. It does something a little different. Because a Z8, especially like in a dirt field, dusty, it's like you'd have a hard time saying why they're still worth $200,000 or $300,000 for a nice one.
It doesn't. Yeah, it looks cool.
They're cool cars, but they're just. Oh right, this was like BMW's attempt at a fashionable car in the early 2000s.
Right.
When you strip away everything else, that's what it is.
Yeah.
With like a V8 that's like it was cool at the time, but it's whatever today. Like it's really weird.
It is interesting.
It's weird to see.
Yeah.
That's kind of similar to, I don't know why this made me think of it, but it's almost like when you go to the junkyard and you're like rolling around in the junkyard like looking for whatever and just disrespecting cars in general.
Treating them as carcasses to be
you're just
stripped
like,
from.
Oh, I need to lay on the ground, like let me just like brutally rip the back seat out of this car and lay on it.
Yes.
And you're just like shredding dashboards to get to the heater
Covered in
core
dirt.
or whatever. Like everything's just kind of gross. You're digging through cadavers.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, I need that sensor that's behind the like air conditioning controls. Like just give me that. Give me my biggest flathead screwdriver, and you're just shredding.
No one is ever going to
AC controls and whatever.
Should I also mention that the funniest part about the junkyard, at least the pick and pull or whatever that we have here in California, is that if you like pull something off of a car and you know are not sure how much it is, so you pull it off and you take it up to the front, you know, to pay for it, or like, can you tell me how much this is? And they'll put it in their little computer thing, and sometimes it'll be like really high for what it is. It's like it'll be like, you know, emblem or something like $12.
Yeah.
And you're just like, nah, I don't want that. So like they literally just throw it in the garbage. Like
we're not gonna keep this.
There's no one that like. There's nobody in charge of like bringing the parts back anywhere.
He goes back and installs it. It's like back on the Accord. Like installs the alternator.
It's like if for whatever reason you do not buy it at the gate,
they throw it away.
That part just goes in the
garbage.
garbage.
It goes into the garbage. Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And so it's like you destroy cars because they're essentially worth nothing.
Yeah.
But then you go back to your car in the parking lot. Like I got it. And you like sit in your car.
Your feet are all dirty.
And your car feels like shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's like whatever you drove there
comes down several.
For a half hour after you leave your car. Because what's the difference?
Yeah.
What's the difference between the car that was in the junkyard that was like an 87 whatever thing, Mercury, Capri, whatever, Fox body.
Yeah.
What's the difference between that, an E30 M3, which is the same vintage or whatever.
And there's actual like regular E30s like in the junkyard.
And there are you'll see E3 series in there. So it's fascinating, the value of cars, because at a certain point it is all not 100%, but like so divorced from the functional value of that car. And it's like in some ways that's why it's difficult to predict the value of them in the future.
It's all based on emotion.
Because you don't know what kind of story.
Right.
You don't know what kind of story they're going to tell about that car. Because E30 M3 is a good example. Because for a while I was like, why would you get that instead of an E36? Mm-hmm. Like it's slower.
Yeah. It's
a worse car in pretty much every way. But now E36 is like, oh no, those were cheap. The story is like, they cheaped out on that one. They're like, the E30 is like the special one. So I don't know. That's a weird experience when you walk around among so many special
parked together
cars. And you'll see something. The other neat part about that is when you see something that's like just should be cool. Like we saw a Ferrari 360 Spider. And so it's like 2002 360 convertible where you're just like, ugh. You know?
Wasn't it like navy blue with a navy blue top?
Yeah, it's just like, like you can just see the value plummeting on that thing. Like it just does nothing for you.
And those cars also have those weird like multi-piece wheels that like,
oh yeah, they look aftermarket.
They're probably expensive, but they look like they look like something from like the Tenzo R.
Yeah, you have to remind yourself that like it's actually 3-piece or 2-piece, and not like those aren't like plastic rivets because they look identical.
But just like the way they look is just like
it's just early 2000s tacky or whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are. You know, it's like a lot of stuff that ends up being valuable is. And at one point, a 250 GTO was.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what's crazy too, is something that is now the most expensive car
in the world.
Yeah. At one point was like, not trash.
Yeah.
But
I mean, like 10 years ago, you probably could have bought that same car for like $2 million.
10 years ago, it was probably a couple million.
Yeah.
20 years ago, it was probably like $500,000.
Yeah.
And then like in the 80s or whatever, there's probably a point.
Probably like 15 grand.
There's a point where it depreciated.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it was just like, do you want an old Ferrari? Like, yeah, maybe.
I'd rather just have a new one.
It had its 10 to 15 year point.
Yeah.
Where do you want a V12 car that's no longer competitive?
Yeah. It kind of went like.
Yeah, it's like if certain ones will hit this asymptote, this exponential rise.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fascinating, the value of stuff and the people who at that level bid on them. So we were walking around the Quail, I heard a couple guys. There's a certain brand of like rich guy, and I don't know if they're actually wealthy or not, because at that level it's hard to tell.
Right.
Because everyone is.
You can appear.
The ones who actually have money, my guess is you don't notice them.
Yeah.
Like there's people who have money and like to show off. And there's people who have a lot of money and do not like to show off.
Right.
So you wouldn't know.
Right.
But then there's this brand who, I don't know which camp they fall into, but it's just
they want you to know.
Salmon shorts, loafers, and smoking a cigar. They always have a cigar in public, lit, and they're smoking it. Like, if you think a vape is annoying, cigar.
Yeah.
Walking around with a cigar. Anyways, it's a certain brand of dude who's just like, and the worst part is you can tell because they're looking around to see if anyone's looking at them.
Do you want me to tell you about my cigar?
Does anyone notice? Anyone into cigars? They're putting out the vibe to bring in their bros. So it's like, I mean, whatever. Especially it's like, it's the Quail. Be who you want to be. But I walked past a few of them and I heard him say like, what are these worth? Like 1 million, 1.2? Like, no, like they're going down. He's like, oh, they leveled out. And it's just like pure money. It's just like a gambling thing to them. And it made me realize like that's why you can have events about for example, events about the Ferrari 250 GTO that are about its heritage and its history and nostalgia and stuff. And there's a large number of people who would buy that car if they had the money, who wouldn't give a shit about that kind of event. Because it's just like, no, I want it because it's going up in value. Or I want it because of it's a thing no one else can have.
Right.
And I don't really care about the history. I wonder who bought it. It might be. I wonder if that's public information.
It would be.
Yeah. It wasn't us. Spoiler alert. Yeah. Yeah, image of a car. Image of a car is an interesing thing.
Yeah, and then I mean, even down to like the lower end of the, I think it's kind of the same thing.
What do you mean lowering?
I mean, like the lower end of.
Yeah, all of it. I mean, it's just different forms of it, but it's all.
I mean, even like Toyota trucks in a way, like.
Yeah.
It's sort of the same thing. Like.
Yeah, you get when people say like a car is not an extension of your personality, it really is for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like you are, I mean, sure, it's not. Technically, it's not.
But a lot of people want
it has nothing to do with your personality. But it's just like clothing or whatever else. Like whatever you're especially if you're specifically going after something.
A look.
Yeah. It's like once that becomes a look, once people define it, like 90s Toyota truck, like it's kind of hipster truck era. That's like, I want to be that.
Right.
Like, I like what that represents.
Yeah. Well, I just mean like, just the way those things hold their value and the way they sell is like purely based on like this reputation. It's like, even if they're more or less the same as the other stuff, people are just like, that's a good truck.
Toyota trucks though are good.
Right. No,
like that is the problem, not problem, but like they're a little overpriced. But they've proven that if you buy this thing,
it won't be a hit.
There's like a 90% chance nothing will break until it hits 300,000 miles or something. It's like, that's just kind of rare.
Yeah.
But it also happens to be a truck, so it's functional. Because like a Camry will too.
Right.
You know?
But
a Camry of that era is as reliable, if not more reliable, honestly.
Right.
But they don't. First of all, they don't have the image at all. No one cares. But they're also not a truck, so you can't really use them.
Right. It's just.
But like pure function, Camry and Tacoma is a good example because a Camry is like $2,000.
Yeah.
You know, and a Tacoma is
it's just like how cheap they were new compared to how.
They're probably similar.
Yeah.
If not. They may even be more expensive now than they were new.
Probably.
Maybe not adjusted for inflation, but yeah, image will sell a car.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about Subaru.
Oh yeah.
As like a prime example.
Like just what they've done in the last like few years.
Of a brand that has built an image. Because at one time they were just kind of quirky, and that was their thing.
They were like only for people that lived in the mountains or.
Yeah, I wonder what their target market was. Because, like, what was that one weird wedge-shaped Subaru with the, like, remember those, like, double door?
SVX?
No, that one, too. That's a good car that probably has, like, Tim's headers. You know? Those things are so weird.
Tommy's shift kit for the 4-speed automatic.
Yeah, they're all auto. There's probably some weird ECU hacks. Because there's got to be no aftermarket for those things.
Yeah.
Those had those sweet, like, half windows.
Like DeLorean style.
for no reason. What was the reason?
I don't know.
You imagine pulling up to, like, In-N-Out? You have to, like, hook your... Every time I see one, it's like, what? But there's a following for sure.
Yes.
I'm sure there's people with, like, clean ones.
Yeah.
Just waiting for that story to change. Waiting for those values to go up. No, I'm talking about that 80s one. Remember with, like, you push in part of the door? Yeah, the XT4i, whatever. Like, they've tried some weird stuff, you know? But it's like they've always just sort of been a kind of quirky brand.
Right, the brat.
And then they legitimately went after, like, lesbians. Yeah, with
did they actually do that?
Yeah, I think that wasn't... I hope. Otherwise, I'm about to sound real bad. But I think they actually discovered, like, in the early 2000s. Remember when, like, gay and talking about being gay was edgy? Like, Mad About You and Friends and Simpsons. Like, when they were all kind of, like, broaching that subject softly in the 90s. Like, it was, like, pretty taboo and risque to even talk about it on primetime TV. I think their market research showed them that, like, there's a certain brand of lesbian that's just, like, super outdoorsy.
Yeah.
Like, I have a few lesbian friends, and they like to play a game called Gay or Outdoorsy, where, like, you spot a girl, and it's like, because you don't know, because, like, that's just a certain brand. But it's like, who actually uses our cars to, like, go be active and stuff? And lesbians were an underrepresented niche, and so they went after them with the Baja.
Yeah.
I think that's what that thing was for. And I think it was gay women. I think. I'm not sure. But it was like, they started with this weird, tiny niche that they could exploit.
Yeah.
And then that image, like, leave it to those girls to be on the cutting edge, because that is now such a hot flavor of like, I'm outdoorsy.
Yes.
You know, beard, rolled up flannel sleeves.
I like dogs.
I have a dog. I just throw my dog in the back.
My dog is a very important part of my life.
I drive on fire roads. But it's like, that's totally their image now. It's like, if you have a Subaru, you do fun things. You like to get out and do things.
You're an adventurer.
You're an adventurer. But it's like, we were talking about it because it's like, their cars in general kind of suck.
Yeah, like they're okay for...
They're fine.
Especially their engines in particular.
Their engines are just like gutless.
Really behind the times.
They're like, super antiquated.
Yeah.
They're not that reliable either. They might be like short term.
They're definitely not like easy to work on.
They're not easy to work on.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just not up to speed, but like, it seems like a lot of them have head gasket problems. Maybe that's just one or two models.
I know for sure the older ones did. I don't know about the...
Yeah, where it's like legitimate problems with these things. But they've nailed the
brand
image of outdoorsy and adventurous and like active. And then whatever the WRX has morphed into.
Yeah.
Because when the WRX first came here, it was like, I remember that was one of, if not the first new car that came out that like was fresh in the performance segment. It was like 02 or 03.
Right, yeah.
And at that time, there was like nothing.
Yeah.
There was like Corvette. The Camaro had died.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And then the Mustang was still there, but like in 05 or something, it went retro.
Yeah.
Like it sort of just like lost its way. It was like, well, maybe like old guys will buy it.
Right.
You know, like they just went retro. And there just weren't any other...
Yeah, it was very unique.
There weren't any other like cheap performance cars. And so the WRX, when it first came out, was like, finally, like here's something new.
Yeah.
It was kind of marking the beginning of a new era. Really, it was. It did kind of signal the beginning of a new era.
Yeah.
Where early 2000s marked the end of one. Because 90s was like all the Japanese performance stuff.
Yeah.
Early 90s was a boom.
Right.
And you had all the like big ones.
Yeah.
3000 GT and all the Super NSX, 300ZX. And then they kind of died.
Yeah.
In the late 90s when like SUVs started.
Yeah.
Picking up.
Well, yeah, they're all pretty expensive too.
And they got really expensive. But then they died. And then WRX came back. And so but then now WRX is like it's like a subculture.
Yeah.
Just Subarus have turned into.
Subi.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I remember at the time, all the people who were not all of them, but a lot who were into Hondas transitioned.
Subaru.
Like Honda's dead, and then like Subaru became the new kind of thing. And those people built the image that it is today.
Yeah.
And kids who come into it today are joining.
And that's why like the
image.
WRX and STI are cool, but they haven't really done much to them like since.
Yeah. They have not changed that car.
No. Especially
and they're still, I wonder how they're selling.
I still see quite a few drive. I mean, there's still a lot of people that'll pay 35, 40 grand for.
I do like that, like, you know, if it's not broken,
right?
Like, don't fix
it.
Yeah,
people are still buying it.
The 4Runner's like that too.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about. It's like, that car came out in what, 08? Was that the refresh? 09?
Something like, 10 years ago. Or
it's been a long time. That thing is old. And before I bought mine, I have a 99. And before I bought mine, I rented a new one for an extended trip, like a 2-week trip, and I put like 4,000 miles on it. And as soon as I got in it, I was disappointed.
You're just like,
I was excited to rent it because I was like, oh, good, I'm interested in buying one of these new.
Right.
And as soon as I got in it, I was like, I can't believe how outdated this feels.
Yeah.
Like, it was shocking. And it was a 2018. It was a brand new car. No, you have to turn a key to start it. And
it's
like,
not cheap either.
They're kind of cheap for what they are, but it's not dirt cheap.
Right.
I mean, it's like, to get one pretty loaded on a good deal, forget about a TRD Pro.
Yeah.
But like, you can find a decent deal for one. You're still going to pay mid-30s.
Right.
You know, it's like, that's kind of cheap, but not really.
Yeah.
But it's like, I got in it and I was like, this is pathetic.
Yeah.
And the interior materials are pretty weak. Like, they scratch super easy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't think that stuff's going to hold up very well. But they are selling in record
Yeah, it just
numbers.
goes up and
It's going up
yeah.
every year. It's
As
going
the
up.
design gets older.
As the design gets older, it goes up. And it's like, why would you change it?
Yeah. What incentive do they have?
You're giving them very little incentive. And I mean, it's one of those cars where if you buy this thing, if you can put up with the way it drives,
Yeah.
which they are pretty good off-road. Once you get that thing off-road, that's the thing. It's like, it immediately makes sense once you're off pavement. Then it's like, oh, this is pretty nice.
That's the reason why a lot of people buy them, even if they're not.
But they're not. They're probably not gonna. That might be another like I do activities kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because if you just need an SUV, there are way better options.
Yeah.
Far better. Anything unibody is going to drive so much better.
Right.
Before that, I rented a Jeep Grand Cherokee, a new one, a V6, and it's like, I was shocked how good that thing was.
Yeah.
Because my perception of Chrysler
Not great.
and Jeep was just like, this thing's going to be kind of lame. It's like, wow, this is actually like phenomenal. And then going from that into the 4Runner, it's like, this isn't even remotely competitive.
Yeah.
This is super bad. Had like a 5-speed transmission.
It still does, right? Yeah.
It still does, yeah. Versus, I think the Grand Cherokee had like 8.
Yeah, the ZF.
And just like way better programming. And just like that motor was way more modern. It was just everything about it. And all the tech and all that. But it's like...
You wouldn't think it's a vehicle. It's like...
Yeah.
Record-breaking.
You would not think so. And yet here we are. They're selling more and more of them
just shows year. Don't ever listen to anything.
Certainly don't listen to us. 'Cause we don't know. But like, yeah, it's weird. And I don't know if that's a perception thing or what. That one's got some function though. Cause like if you just need a car, you can put up with how it drives and all that stuff. Those will go 300,000 miles. 200,000 without needing anything but oil changes and like tires and brakes, maybe not even brakes, like depending on how you drive.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, that's pretty crazy. But again, I'm sure the perception helps because I don't know that like no one who keeps a car for 20 years.
Not that many. I think a lot of people like to think they are.
That's it's like when people are like, oh, that thing's going to be in the shop in 10 years. Like, nobody, look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Why does everyone talk about 10-year-old reliability of a car?
I think that's a lot of old people that, I mean, like, most of the younger people haven't even been driving long enough to own a car.
Literally haven't been on the road that long. Yeah, it's like, do you know what it feels like to keep a car for 20 years? That's got to be crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like a big deal when it is. Like,
I could see keeping a, an enthusiast car for 20 years just because you love it, but like
even then that's crazy.
The same daily driver for 20 years takes a commitment.
And so to buy a new car and talk about its ability to go 300,000
in 15 years this car is gonna be awesome.
It's still gonna be reliable.
Yeah,
like everything's reliable for 5 years right now.
Oh yeah,
but that still sells cars. Like I just trust the solid reliability of Toyota. Like, okay, it's not, you're not wrong.
Yeah,
but you might be like
misguided,
overestimating your ability to stay enthusiastic about a new purchase.
A new pickup truck.
Yeah, a new pickup truck. I also wonder if people buy those things because they think it's going to change. Like, how common is it for people to say, this is the end of a blank?
Yeah.
They're never going to be blank like this again. It's always like, I get a kick out of it. It's just kind of like the cruel part of me. Like the ZR1, the old one,
and the
C6.
And the GT500.
And the GT500, like, this is it. Like, they're never gonna.
Yeah, we always like, going back to bring a trailer, as we are apt to do, like, sometimes you send those links of like the 08 GT500.
Oh, those are so sad.
3,500 or like less, like
preserved.
Yeah, this has been sitting in a garage for 10 years.
2009 GT500 preserved. Just remarkably preserved, going for half A car
What were
where
those new, like 50?
or more. There was one, the KR,
Oh, the
King of the Road. Literally, that was what it. King of the Road, and it had like exhaust and like a tune. It's just like you read about it now, looking back, and you're like, you assholes, just preying on people.
King of the Road.
I saw one. It was on Bring a Trailer. Go look it up, and it's like the dude didn't enjoy. He didn't get to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Unless he just really gets off on having a car in the garage. I hope. My heart goes out to him and hopes he enjoyed having that thing in the garage, because he did not drive it.
Yeah.
Bought it and stored it and just watched the value plummet and then sold it.
And watched as like Ford came out with a bunch of like a lot better.
King of the Road. Oh, never mind. Next year. How can you call it the King of the Road when you, in the pipeline, you know something better is coming? It's so deceptive. It's so messed up. It's just
he was
like,
sold on it.
You look at it now and it's like, oh man, no, 2010 blows that thing. Like, a new GT probably runs circles around that thing.
Yeah.
Just like, oh man. Sorry. Yeah, those are the worst.
I wonder, did they buy it with the idea like, I'm going to keep this thing?
I think so, because otherwise it would have miles.
Yeah.
First owner bought it and stored it.
And it's like so little miles where it's not just like, oh, I never really drove it that much, but it's...
Yeah,
like
it's not, it's less than like weekend car miles.
Yeah, like I specifically bought this.
It was stored.
To not drive.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not, that's
and then
not...
why are you selling it now when it's like...
I know, you're selling it at the worst time.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll go up in value.
Yeah.
You're selling it at the worst time.
Yeah.
Maybe not, maybe it'll keep going down. But yeah, like that's a good point. Like in 30 years, this thing will be worth a bunch. Like, oh, never mind, I only made it 10.
Yeah, time to bail out.
I'm going to bail at the worst.
I'm going to take like a 20 grand loss.
Buy high and sell low.
Well, at least I got to enjoy it.
At least I got to stare at it while people like made fun of me. Telling me I was going to do exactly what I'm doing. Yeah, the ZR1 was like that too. Because it was like, man, big engine, supercharged V8, Magna ride in a Vet.
The C6.
They are never going to make something like this. 120 grand with them, and they're selling them also with a markup. And people were going nuts because it was like, this is it.
Yeah.
Better get it now because it's never coming. And then the C7 Z06 is that exact car.
Yeah, better.
That exact formula.
Yeah.
But better.
Yeah.
But better. The only thing not better about those, I still prefer the C6 ZR1. I think that's a badass car.
It looks better.
It looks better. It's got a ton of presence. It's just like, to me, that is still kind of the king of the road. Like, you see one of those, just like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty cheap right now, too. But the C7s, I don't know if they fixed it. The overheating problem.
Oh, on the track.
They overheat, and then they were like, oh, okay, and I think they like did something about it.
Tweaked it.
Yeah, but I don't totally remember, but I kind of remember them saying like, no, it's the design.
Right.
Of like
cooling
the bumper.
Yeah.
You know, it was like we're not moving enough air.
Yeah.
And I remember someone saying like the Camaros and Cadillac CTSV don't have that problem because it's just a physical
the design
dimension.
is different.
Of the cross section of the front, and I think that's why the ZR1 kind of it looks a little the new ZR1.
Because they have like big mass.
I think it looks kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't doesn't do a lot for me, but my guess is they had to just open it up to get more air because the ZR1 probably doesn't have that issue.
Speaking of that, we saw at the Quail. I forget the name. I'm sorry. The company that like had Corvettes converted to electric.
I think it was a C7 Z06.
Yeah,
but it's electric.
Yeah,
I didn't read a ton about it.
Yeah,
I think it's full electric.
I never heard anything about that before. Which seems like a very weird.
Like, why?
Yeah, I don't know how much those things are, but I'm guessing they're not.
Probably a lot. Probably more than a Z06.
It's probably more than a Z06 and a Tesla, like combined.
Yeah. I don't know, but it's like, hey, do you want all the?
Do you want the stigma of a Corvette without the cool engine?
Do you want it without the like awesome sounding motor that people buy these for? What?
I want to go fire up the vet, honey. That kind of reminds me that people always do like the dumbest things to Corvettes. You know, they have those like C5s or C6s that are like restyled to look like a 50s.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like the scallop thing on it. Like,
yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, why would you buy it? Like,
I think Corvette buyers, some of them, people joke like it's an old guy, and a lot of times it is.
Yeah.
Like it's not uncommon for people to just like have a C7 and like start it and take it around the block.
Yeah.
And like that's it. And like whatever, you know, there's no wrong way to own a car.
Mm-hmm.
But like that is a large target market.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if like they're just also kind of susceptible to sort of goofy stuff like that. Like you can sell 20 of them. Yeah. is enough dudes. And those are the guys with money too. Like old people have more money. They've just been around longer.
Right. They've accumulated, hopefully.
They've accumulated some money and like they're looking to feel good about themselves. You know?
Yeah. What else have they got to live for?
What else you got going on? Some of them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, maybe that's why.
It just seems, so weird.
If you can,
there were a lot of people looking at them. Like, just, I think part
the
of
electric ones?
Yeah, just kind of out of the...
Yeah, it's
like,
different. It'll draw a crowd.
Yeah.
It's like that's like a clickbait thumbnail.
Right.
Like, go look at it.
In real life.
You know? Yeah, that's real life clickbait.
That's what I want to plop down. I love Corvettes.
Yeah, hold on.
I hate engines.
I had a deposit on a ZR1. Yeah, I love Corvettes, but I hate good sounding motors. I like everything about the Corvette except for the motor. That is your target market, I guess.
That's like the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the image and the practicality.
Yeah.
I hate the engine.
Yeah. I mean, all this stuff is image.
Yeah.
Again, it's like if you can convince someone that they're going to feel a certain way when they buy a certain thing, they'll go for it. They'll spend however much. Image and the promise of making more money. Those are probably that's probably like the two biggest factors that motivate humans.
Whether it's a Subaru Forester or a Ferrari GTO.
Whether it's a Subaru Forester or a Ferrari GTO.
Yeah.
Like that probably sums up what we've been talking about. It's like image and more money.
Yeah.
Between that Venn diagram.
You'll find everything.
That's a shitload of people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so we're going to head to the track.
Yeah, we're going to shoot a few more things. And
we kind of like, after piecing together the video last night, we still didn't have an ending.
Yeah.
All day, it was just like, how are we going to... And it's like, the ideas are always like...
Funny.
It's just like, well, you could roll down that hill. You know, it's just like... Yeah. It's like, we have to end it with shock value. Yeah. And then it'll be done. And so it's just like... Oh, what if you went in that porta potty and we kicked it over? Or, you know, it's just like...
So all you have to do is take off all of your clothes and roll down a huge...
Run through the pits naked. It's like it's never a good ending. It's never like, oh, here's like a smart way to end it. And so we were watching the video last night. We're sort of piecing it together. We had an idea. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go try to shoot that. A couple more hours and then get on the road.
Yeah.
Overall fun.
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
Good event though.
No, it's been fun. So
if you've never gone to Car Week, I recommend it.
Do it. Yes.
Do it. It's worth it. Yes. Even if it's just for a day.
Yeah.
But 2 days is probably fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Try to find some.
It's probably not the cheapest thing in the world.
Yeah.
To experience, but it's. I don't think there's anything like it in the world where that many different things are going on in the same.
It's like a giant it's like a Vegas buffet.
Yeah.
That's pretty like
the
closest way to describe it, because like there's all sorts of stuff and a lot of it's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just like Sizzler.
Right. Yeah.
It's like I guess the soup.
The bread isn't bad.
Yeah, bread. I think I'm regretting this. So yeah. Give it a shot if you haven't. Probably
so
it.
And we will be back at some point.
Yeah.
Pretty soon.
But Anywho, hope you enjoyed.
Yep. All right.
Hope you're rethinking the image that your car projects.
Hope you're rethinking your life.
Yeah.
All right.
At any rate,
Yep.
thanks for hanging out.
See you again.
Cool.